Oh, hey guys, Mickey Shook here, and I'm with CarryTrainer. We specialize in passing on knowledge to help make you guys safer. And today, we're not going to be talking about guns. We are going to be talking about exterior doors and hardening them. Really, in essence, to harden a door or some entry point to a structure, an ingress or egress point. To do that, you want to make it harder for somebody to break open, pry open, kick open. This is a standard exterior door we're going to be putting in at this house today. Many of you don't know I've been a carpenter most of my life. I no longer work as one, but I thought this would be a good video. There are products out there that do this, and what I've got today really is only going to cost you about $5 or $10, and it's better than most anything on the market. You ready to see it? Let's do it. So first things first, I want to show you why this is such a big deal. Here's a standard exterior door. Usually they're covered in steel or fiberglass, or they're just wood. This is a steel door that has a wood and foam core, very standard construction. And usually the jambs are made of wood and wrapped in something like fiberglass, in this case aluminum, aluminium if you're from the UK, or just wood and paint. These are not really very secure, and if you look at this, well, look at that. Somebody has tried to pry this door. And you'll also see by looking at the wood jamb, it's taken some abuse. Somebody tried to kick this door down. Now these screws have been replaced with a longer screw, and if you'll notice inside, you see deep down in there, past my fingertip, there is metal, and that is why this door was not breached. Now I'm going to show you how to do that. Let's get after it. So here's one of the problems. This is the exterior of the door. So if you were on the inside, exterior down here, interior here, this is where the handle goes or the knob, and this is the deadbolt. Imagine that bolt inside of this wood opening. So that works pretty good. You've got a little metal plate called a strike plate that goes on the inside between the jamb and the door. The problem is this wood jamb, and this one happens to be finger jointed. If you look really close, you'll see the fingers, and what it looks like is the wood is made up of small bits that are joined together like this with glue. It's how we get to use more of the byproducts of the wood manufacturing process to come up with stuff like this. It's fine for trim and things of that nature, but structurally, right in the middle of this bolt hole is a finger joint. So that is what you are relying on, is this 1/2 inch of wood to stop this from getting kicked out. We are going to take this piece of 1/8 of an inch steel, and it's going to be fastened to the jamb. We're going to drill a hole so that this bolt goes all the way through into that. Also, in addition to that, this is going to be screwed with very long, very hard screws. We don't want any old screws. Talking about screws, you guys have heard me say Super Dave's saying, everything's important, everything matters, do the right thing at the right time. Well, we could go through all of this extra work, and if you use the wrong screw, it's for nothing, for naught. So this is a 4-inch SPAC screw. I believe these are grade 5. So that's a pretty sturdy screw. We're going to put 4 of these through that length of steel, straight through the door and into the framing. So that jamb's going to be super tight. So not only will the person need to kick and break the door, they're going to have to blow out this piece of steel and the stud that's behind it. You saw the cracked door that we showed you that we had installed this on in the past. Somebody tried to kick that door in, and somebody didn't make it because of a $3, $5 piece of steel. This one happens to be 1/8 of an inch by 3 inches, which is perfect because we've got a 3.5 inch stud inside of most walls. Maybe it's a 5.5 inch stud, and this is 3 feet long. I found it work really good. If you get a longer one, longer's okay too. Something very important is that you've got proper shims between, and we're going to show you how to do that. Let's get after it. First thing we got to do is mount this. So simple carpentry tool, speed square and a pencil. I just need to mark where this strike is at, and I'm actually going to mark a little bit wider, about a 1/16 of an inch wider than the strike. And I do believe that we've got about a 1/2 inch of material here. Let's measure that. It's actually closer to about 7/16. So that's 7 of those little lines on a tape measure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my mild steel up. And if I want to get really tricky with it, I know it's a 3-foot piece of steel. I could mark 1.5 feet, right? So 18 inches. And I can verify that by coming the other way. Good carpenter always knows what he's doing, 18 inches. And I'm going to hold that in the center of the hole, right? I'm just going to transfer these marks over, just like so. And then spin this around so everybody can see. I'll just use my speed square again, mark those. I know we're coming down 3/16 of an inch, or I'm sorry, 7/16 of an inch. See, check twice. And the depth of that hole, this is important. I like to do this, get better measurements. We are at 1 1/8 to the bottom of that hole. So we're gonna transfer that over. I'm gonna widen it up a little bit. What's really happening here is that we're stopping this jamb from getting blown out. I wanna make sure I've got plenty of room for that bolt to get thrown through there. So I'm gonna drill a pilot hole, and then we're gonna drill this out to the size that we need. A little bit of cutting oil. Yeah, we're gonna use gunfighter gun oil for it. And I'm gonna punch a couple of pilot holes here. I'm gonna make sure I'm still lined up. Yes, I am. Just gonna drill nice and slow. And you know what? I forgot my ear pro. Hearing doesn't come back. Purposely drilling a little slower. I don't want to frickin' race this thing through. Punch one more hole here. Don't want to heat the drill bit up. Doing so is never a great idea. If you've got a drill press, that's not a bad way to go. Some of you more handy guys have higher level tools. I'm trying to show you how to do this like out on a job site where you can get stuff done pretty easy. We're also gonna have to punch holes for those screws. So I'm gonna also need to punch 2 holes for just some small screws that we're gonna use. I've got little 3/4 inchers so I can affix this to the jamb, because our screws that are gonna hold this are gonna come from inside the jamb. So I'm gonna punch 2 screws just to locate this on the door. So we're gonna get those marked out. I'll do one right there, one right there. These are just locator screws, so nothing critical about their location. A little bit of lube on those. And you can see this mild steel drills pretty easily. Eye protection, always a must. You know, this drill might not sound loud to a lot of you. I tell you what, if I could go back in time and tell 20-year-old me what the guys I was working with didn't tell, it'd be put on some damn hearing protection. All right, so now we've got to drill holes for the big screws, and I'm gonna stagger these. And I wanna keep them in enough where there's some serious meat into the studs. So I'll come in about an inch. We'll come down, we'll do one here, about an inch in. We'll come here, and I'm staggering so that they're held on both sides of the stud. One here, and then don't forget there's gonna be some through the strike plate here. So we'll punch these holes. Oop, walking. Very nice. You know, nothing like a good drill bit, cheap drill bits, no bueno. Save you a few bucks at the hardware store. They cost you a lot out in the field. Now all of those 4 holes, I'm gonna need to widen slightly because our big screws are definitely not gonna fit there. So I'm gonna grab a little bit larger drill bit. Nice. And if you need a little cutting oil, don't be afraid to get some on there. I've still got some on the work surface. I'm cutting pretty slow so we don't heat the shit out of that bit. You also want to be careful. If you're not used to using a drill, stuff like this can cause nasty infections. So do use proper protective equipment. Or for those of you that are not handy and don't plan on doing any of this, but you're gonna have a door installed or reinstalled, show this to your carpenter. Any halfway decent carpenter can do this. So now we're gonna use this step bit and open this up to the size that I want. All right, so we're just gonna gently open this guy up. I don't wanna go too quick. I'm actually gonna put a little bit of oil on this. You gotta be careful too, especially if you're working at somebody's house or your own house. You don't wanna sling cutting oil all over, especially surfaces that are gonna be painted. This still has a plastic wrap on it. In reality, if I was at somebody's house, side note, I would not be using the door as a work surface. I wanted to be able to keep all this compact here so that we could show you how we're doing this. So get off my back. A little more oil. Very nice. All right, get some of this stuff off. Very good. So one thing, some of you guys watching this, you might look at this and say this bolt is not going to penetrate all the way through into this. I've done this enough times that if you purchase a long bolt throw like I have here, sometimes it doesn't interact, sometimes it does. And if you find that out after you've installed the door and got everything together, it's a big pain in the ass. So I just punch these holes now, and there's clearly enough meat here to keep everything intact. Now we're just gonna clean this up a little bit with a mill file. So that's what I'm looking for. I want to make sure that that bolt will make it through there, which it does. So Kanan's gonna step out here and give me a quick hand. We're just gonna hold this guy up, and we're gonna look for it to be centered up and of course flush. So lift your end up a little bit, Kanan, there we go. You can lower it about 1/8 of an inch on your side. So I'll get one little tack in mine. And remember, these screws are just to hold it. And I'll switch with you. Just tacks to hold this in place until this sucker is shimmed in the opening. And then we're gonna drill through these once we open the door so that we can punch those long screws all the way through. Being careful not to blow this out. We're gonna countersink these. And now we've got the ability to put these long screws all the way through the jamb, locking those into the framing. So we'll get all these holes that we pre-drilled knocked out, and we'll get ready to install the door. All right, we've got a nice close-up. The door is installed. This isn't a how to install a door video, guys. This is how to harden it. So we've got that metal plate that runs behind the jamb here. We showed you how we fastened it. I've got one screw started. I'm going to show you how we do this. So we've got the door set. It's plumb, it's level, but I've got to make sure that this is solid behind here. I can't run a screw through here without good support. When you use shims, sometimes you'll see people that don't know what they're doing and they just jam them in like that. You can imagine that's not going to give you a full bearing. We want the flat back of this jamb to be supported completely between the stud. So what we want to do is rotate these shims so that you actually create a surface that is the same thickness. And the more that you adjust it, the thicker or narrower you can make it. So you may actually need to trim a shim. And at this point, I can take the both of those and that guy right there, and I can get right what I need to make this sucker nice and tight. So I'm gonna snug it up, close the door to verify I haven't bent anything. And that looks good. Important thing about a shim is you got to make sure that you've drilled this out. If you don't, you're going to end up just blowing those shims to smithereens. So I'm going to punch a hole, pre-drill those shims. Then we're going to grab our big, fat, grade 5 4-inch screw, and we're going to carefully run this into the framing. Look at that. So that sucker's tight and right now, and I've got that steel behind there. So as you can see here, that steel now is between the jamb and the framing with those 4-inch screws. We're going to continue those down the jamb, and we've got the strike plate now mortised in. So chisel, whatever you need to do. Again, not a how to install a door video, but how to secure a door. So that guy's chiseled in, we've pre-drilled. I'm gonna pop that sucker out, and now I've gotta punch holes for these long screws to go through the steel. So here we go. Let's get that chucked up correct. And all of those shims are in tight and fastened now. So now we know that we've got the good margins for the door. You tradesmen know what I'm talking about. And now we've shimmed behind the strike. And now we're going to run in our 3-inch factory screws that match. But remember, the lion's share of the holding is going to be because of that steel plate. Food for thought, when running finished screws, always be very careful not to strip them. If you need to use a manual screwdriver, never a bad idea. All of these guys are going to get trimmed now. We're going to fill this door with whatever type of insulation. I'm going to use a minimal expanding polyurethane foam. The door is going to get trimmed out. We still got some interior trim, exterior caulk, things like that to do. But this strike plate now has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 4-inch grade 5 screws. It's got 2 really trim screws, but those are now feeding through that steel plate. This is what makes a door secure. It's not the screws. It's the screws coupled with the shims, coupled with everything being tight and directly fastened to framing. Other side, where we have our hinges. Muy importante. We want to throw a 3 to 4-inch hardened construction screw into 2 of the spots in each of the hinges. So 1 and 2. For each hinge location, securing that directly to framing, shimming as necessary. That's what's going to harden up the door and really make it harder to defeat. So a quick recap here, guys. We've got that 36-inch by 1/8-inch thick by 3-inch wide piece of steel. That's behind the strike. This is the strike side, hinge side, strike side. That piece of steel and the jamb itself is properly shimmed, very solid, with shims, as we showed you, to stack them so that they're not in there like a wedge, but they're in there creating a full bearing surface between the door jamb and the framing. Grade 5 or higher screws, pre-drill all this stuff or you'll just blow things apart. And it's imperative that you've got the jamb shim properly, otherwise a screw that big is gonna suck this jamb in and make the door not close right. Even if you don't know how to do any of this, and again, this isn't a how to install a door video, it was how to harden it, have your carpenter or your handyman do it for you. That alone is going to, coupled with this strike plate being properly secured and a good solid lock, make the door much harder to breach. Can you get through? Sure. Anything is going to be breachable. That said, buying time, as we talk about constantly, buying time gives you time to act. So we talk about awareness constantly in these videos, right? Awareness is the currency with which you buy time to act. Well, if I'm sound asleep, I want to hear some pound, pound, pound to buy time. You notice this home has an alarm. This home also has cameras. This home also has exterior security lighting that is on motion sensors. Also has lighting that's on at night just to keep the place well lit. Think about how you are approaching safety and your personal safety in this instance holistically. It's not just having a gun. It's not just having a dog. It's not just having good locks. It's not just having an alarm. It's not just having exterior lights. It's not just having a mindset of safety and being a winner. It's not just having training. It's not just having the right tools. It's all of that. It's how you go about your life. And remember, the most important thing is we're doing all of this stuff to stay safe so we can keep on living, so we can live a long, full life, full being one filled with enjoyment and peace. Tell somebody you love them. I hope this video was helpful. Something as simple as a $5 piece of steel and some screws can make a door go from nah to Mickey with CarryTrainer.com. Drew behind the camera and editing desk. Be well. Tell somebody you love them. Don't be dickheads.